So, what do we talk about today, right? We will be talking about the biggest trap that remote workers face. If you are working remotely, if you are working, say, from an offshore location, say, or your manager and maybe most of your the rest of the team is actually based out of another country, maybe the US, right? And you are sitting here away from the rest of your team. This could be a challenging moment. You're probably doing the most focused work of your entire life because more likely than not, maybe you are more productive staying at home and being focused on the work that you're doing. But there is a big problem with that, right? Your boss may not actually have any idea what you do all day long. Let me share a quick story. I was recently speaking with a professional whose manager was based in the US, right? This person was working incredibly hard, mostly from home and sometimes from office, but then nevertheless, because the boss is away and is not physically located in the same location, it becomes very difficult. The fact was, this guy, he was hitting every single target and maybe outperforming most of his team members. But when the year end performance review came and he was given his rating, well, more importantly, he saw that impact on his pay increase, right? It was very average. Now, and he was shocked because he always thought that he was one of the top performers in the team. Meanwhile, his peers who worked in the same physical location as his manager got much higher rating than him and better raises, obviously. You can't tell exactly what, but rest assured, because you have a better rating, they probably also had better raises, even though their actual work output was maybe lower or equal to our friend in Bangalore, right? And when he finally asked about this to his manager simply said, look, you are hitting all the KPIs, but you aren't taking extra leadership responsibilities or driving new projects like the other members here in the office are, right? So, what he's referring to the part of his team members that are based out of his office in the US. The manager was referring to them. And the most frustrating part is that this person here, my friend here in Bangalore, he never even had an opportunity to take on those projects because he wasn't in the building or he didn't think it was even an option. Because when they were being handed out or they throw it out on the table for people to take it up, he really thought that that wasn't meant for him to do. So let me ask this, all the people who are you are on the stream today, right? Give me a yes in the chat if you have ever felt like you are doing great work, but you got passed over because you aren't physically visible to that leader or to the leadership overall in the location they are in. If you felt that, let me know, right? So there are two parts to this. Let me bring up my screen in full screen. So, how do you build influence, right? So, there are two problems with what I just said, right? When your team or your boss themselves are away from the same physical location as you are, there are a few problems that you will face. Basically, I want to say that you can boil it down to about two different kinds of traps, right? To overcompensate for that. So, what are those? Let me change the screen. First one is, right, because you don't have any accidental visibility, right? This happens because in a physical office, visibility happens by accident. If you think about it, what I mean by that is you run into the director in the hallway, but when you work from home, that accidental visibility, or say water cooler conversations that you have with maybe a senior leader, or you come across a senior vice president of the company, at the coffee vending machine possibly, right? Those are your accidental visibilities. You have an opportunity to talk to your manager possibly when you are coming out of the formal meeting, right? A team meeting may have happened, you're physically there, you walk out of the meeting and you have a time with your manager where you can talk about maybe a project that is coming up, right? So those accidental visibility drops to zero, literally nothing, when you are away from that physical location. When people realize this, right, they usually fall into one of the two traps, right? The first one is the vanishing act. Sorry, let me just move forward with this. Right? The first one is the vanishing act. You keep your head down, you do a great work, and you assume that your output will speak for itself. You end up just like the person I was talking about in my story, ignored, right? Nobody knows what you do. You think that you have done a great job, but the manager wasn't on the same wavelength. And again, see, your manager might be a very nice person. That person might be speaking to you very highly when you are on a phone conversation or on Teams or Slack or whatever you use, right? Cisco Messenger or Zoom to interact with each other. Everything might seem like it's all going really well, but somewhere you have to understand that every performance review is actually a comparative rating, right? You are stack ranked with your peers. Now, in that comparison, you may be hitting all of the KPIs, but so is most likely a few of your peers. So how do you differentiate it? Your manager is probably going to look at, uh, who's taking up more initiatives. What are the initiatives that have come up? And that those kind of measures, which is not absolute, which is not absolutely tangible, or it's not concrete, more of a soft skill, it's very likely that your manager is experiencing them along with people who may be more closely there with them physically than people who are working remotely, far away locations. So that is a real bias there, right? So that is something that you will need to be mindful of. And then so the first one is the vanishing act. I call it the vanishing act, where you keep your head down, you hope that everything is going well, so you're oblivious to the inner in nitty-gritties of all the things that your manager is keeping an account of in their minds, right? So, and then there is trap number two. What is that? Is basically a lot of the times this might be a conscious thing that you do, that you're always on, and that leads to burnout. You What you do is you panic. You try to prove you are working by replacing, sorry, by replying to messages that you may see in Teams or Zoom or whatever mode of communication you use internally in your organization. You might overcompensate by that by responding like quickly. Within 10 seconds, your manager asks you something, you respond then. But then even worse is when you are past your logout time, your workday is done, but then you still are active on that platform, because what if your manager messages and you're not there? What would that seem like? So you work overtime, you overload yourself to compensate for that physical um, lack of physical uh, interaction by being online all the time, right? You don't have a stop button. So if you are especially if you're a naturally quiet person, what I mean by that is you're an introvert. You don't, it's not that easy for you to socialize and so on, right? What this does is it'll destroy your energy, right? Now, for those of you who are on the stream with me, be honest with me in the chat, right? Which trap do you fall into more often? Type 1, if you tend to vanish, or is it type 2, if you just burn yourself out, right? Burn yourself out just trying to be everywhere, right? Unfortunately, I still can't see my stream messages, but then I hope you can interact with me through this, right? So tonight we are going to fix it, right? What are the ways you can manage it? I'm going to teach you the asymmetric visibility. What is asymmetric visibility, right? We'll go through three simple rules, right? The asymmetric visibility simply means that you don't need to be seen everywhere. You just need a few smart moves every week to make sure you get the credit you deserve, right? So we'll go about it in three rules. So rule number one, I'll flash it in front of the screen very soon, but we'll talk about three rules that is going to come up, right? So what is the first one, right? The first one, I call it the Friday wrap up. What is a Friday wrap up? So, right now, your manager does not want a massive list of your daily tasks or your achievements. They want to know that you are handling problems so that they don't have to. So, what you do is every week, it could be a Friday afternoon or evening, send a very simple 3 point email. And what do you talk about in these 3 point emails? First one is the biggest win of the week. If you had made some significant achievement over the week, just point that out. Second is talk about a problem you solved for that week. It could be a simple problem, but then if you've solved for it, speak about that or write it down, right? And and then the third one, sorry, I see some issues with the stream. Hold on. Right. So what you do is, yeah, so the biggest, I was talking about three things that you will, the biggest win, the problem you solved, and of course, the third point that you talk about is the next week's focus. What are you going to focus on for next week? Is there something significant that is going to happen, which is going to be your big focus? That's what you talk about. So now, moving on to rule number two, right? Uh, Sorry, before we get on to that, I want to talk about what the benefits are with this, right? So the first thing is that you are solving a problem. Your main focus for the next week is going to tell your manager what it is going to be what to expect in the next week. But then look at that, right? The 3 points, the biggest win, the problem solved, and the next week's focus, all of that together, it's just going to take you about 5 minutes to write. But it frames you as a leader who thinks about the big picture, right? And especially, I think Friday would be a good time to do that because what happens is you are setting that frame that you are, a leader who thinks in big, you can see the big picture. You're going to set that frame right before your boss leaves for the weekend, right? So that's probably giving them enough opportunity to assimilate that information and think about what's happened with you, right? So that's a good strategy. So let's move on to rule number two, which I call the camera on strategy. Yeah. What is a camera on strategy? So this is where, think about it. Yeah. A lot of the companies, if you HR in your company probably says that you have to keep your camera on for every single meeting, right? And when you saw this flash on your screen that says the camera on strategy, I'm pretty sure most of you are thinking, oh, he's going to say the same thing, that you keep your camera on for every single meeting. But what I'm going to say is that you don't have to do that, right? In fact, I'm saying the exact opposite. I'm saying do not keep that camera on for every single meeting, right? There is a scientific reason why I say that, because keeping camera on all the time for every meeting, small, big, in a show up meeting, what you're doing is you're draining your energy, right? It is proven scientifically that being on a video call actually drains you of your energy very, very quickly, because your brain is used to work in physical presence of in a social environment that includes your office meetings or one-on-ones. It's wired to work efficiently in a physical one, face-to-face basis. Now when you don't have that physical interaction, you lose on your ability to see non-verbal cues like body language, facial expression, small little things that happens on the face, hand gestures. A lot of that is missing. So what your body, or sorry, your brain does is it tries to overcompensate for that, right? So that leads to you, draining your energy much faster. Your battery goes down very, very fast. Now, out of curiosity, right, I'm going to ask you this question. How many of you, if you're on a Teams meeting, it could be a one-on-one or a group meeting, say wave by, look in, for in that meeting when you're leaving the meeting, at the end of the meeting, you just wave by, you use your hand to say bye, right? Now, at the same time, say yes if you do that. I'm pretty sure it's pretty much everybody who does that, right? And if you're saying waving bye to your friends or your colleagues on the Teams meeting at the end of the meeting, or if you're using Cisco Jabber or whatever that you're using, right? WebEx, you do that. Can you think? Do you remember that you actually do that? But think about it. If you are in a physical meeting, going around a table, sitting across the table, what are the chances you actually wave by to somebody sitting across the table before you leave for the meeting, from the meeting, right? Never happens. So why do you do that? It's simple, very simple reason is, like I said, your brain is trying to overcompensate for the missing visual cues. So you wave by in a team meet, in a video meeting, because you feel the need to do that, because you are expressing your body language exaggeratedly, simply because you're missing the other cues, right? So there you go. That's why you get tired if you are on video calls or video meetings all day long, 8 hours a day. It's too much for you. So what I'm asking you to do, instead of being on video calls all day long or being on video for every single meeting that you have, is to audit your calendar. Look for about 20% of your meetings which actually matter, where decisions are made, or there is senior leadership presence, or there is something significant that is happening, right? For those meetings, turn your camera on. And I'm pretty sure most often than not, it is about 20% of your meeting, right? And be intensely present. Make sure you have good lighting, your the lights towards you facing your face, right? That it's well lit, and that you are intently present during all of those high priority meetings, right? But on the other hand, for the routine updates, keep the camera off and protect your energy, right? In those meetings, I would suggest, sorry, as usual, I keep missing to bring the slides forward. So in all the other meetings, try to keep your the energy conserved and keep it. Don't go on to the video. In fact, if you can, walk during those meetings, especially if it is everyday stand up, you just have to give an update, or if there's some low profile meeting that you are on, you don't have to be like present entirely. You just can take a step back, walk around, whatever helps you focus in the meeting, but at the same time, do something that is productive. And I don't mean do something on the screen, never do that. I mean more like walk and take the call, right? It is good for you physically as well. So that's rule number 2, and we'll move to rule number 3, which is about public praise. What does this mean, right? Now, most of us, we hate to brag about ourselves in public, right? Especially even if it is that on a Slack or Teams channel that you're on within your office. You don't like to do that. I don't like to do that. I'm an introvert. Attention of that sort would just make me uncomfortable. But then I'm telling you, there is a way to get that attention on you without actually putting the limelight on yourself. How do you do that? Is basically brag about someone else instead. Now, it may seem counterintuitive, but believe me, every once in a week, right, or every week, drop a message in the Teams channel publicly thanking a colleague for their help, right? Say something like, big thanks to Sarah for her help with the data we couldn't have hit our target without her help, right? So what you're doing it is that you're creating goodwill with Sarah, of course, right? If you're praising Sarah in publicly, you have earned goodwill with her. But then again, what it does, it strategically puts your name and your project success in front, right? And the whole department or the whole team that you work with is going to look at you and praise you for one, making the project successful. Two, they'll be like, wow, you're praising somebody else for that. But then you notice that the attention is back on you, right? And that's how you bring attention on yourself and your achievement, and that should keep you much more comfortable, right? So here it is. So what you're doing is you're highlighting your project success naturally, building goodwill about yourself through somebody else, right? So that's a good strategy to look for. So now, how do you turn visibility into promotion? Now, the three rules that I spoke about, right, will solve out of sight, out of mind problem for sure, right? So you don't have to worry about, oh, I'm out of sight. Will that, put me in a back seat? Will I get promoted because I'm not in the mind of my manager or the leadership team overall? Use these three strategies and you do away with it. But visibility alone does not put money in your bank account, does it? It doesn't, right? Eventually, you have to take that visibility and turn it into a conversation about your title, your pay, or even if it is about getting some funding for your project, right? If you don't know exactly what to say when that moment or when that opportunity comes, you're leaving money on the table for yourself. If you're ready to stop being invisible hard worker and start securing the senior leadership roles that you actually deserve, I have built a system to help you get there, right? I recently launched a 60-day challenge. It is a self-paced, pre-recorded program designed specifically for mid-level leaders or anyone, in fact, who want to step into their leadership role. If you want to be the first line manager, like a team leader or team manager, this is the right kind of challenge that you can take it up. This is, like I said, a self-paced, pre-recorded program that is designed to build habits. All it takes is about 30 minutes of in a day of investment from you, plus of course a little bit of money. But by the end of the 60 days, you will have mastered the art of influence. You will have the exact scripts you need to ask for what you want, and all of what that is going to be customized to your situation because I am using AI prompts, so which I've built into the program. So you don't have to wonder, oh, will this apply for my situation? You just have to plug in your specific bits, and AI prompt that I have built for you will give you the exact method and scripts that you will need to be successful. There is a link to this already in the description of this event. If you're on LinkedIn or on YouTube, you should be able to find that in there. And it is also in the description for the YouTube channel that I'm on. Go grab your spot tonight. Don't delay it. Like I said, a lot of the people that come to me much later, one thing that is common among most of them is that they wish they had gone through all of this much earlier. Don't be that person. Invest in yourself. Don't think, oh, I'll try it out for another couple of months. Oh, this is because of my manager not supporting me. Oh, this is because I'm part of an organization that has poor culture. All you're doing is you're shifting the blame. But what I want you to think about is, what can you do for yourself? What can be done to overcome the situation? If you think politics is the cause of the problem, how do you deal with politics? If you think visibility is the cause of the problem, how do you build visibility for yourself? If you think it is executive presence that you lack, how do you build executive presence for yourself? If you think it's communication, you don't know how to exactly communicate with your stakeholders, how do you fix that? What can you do to fix that is something that you'll need to think about, right? So stop the whys. Why am I not able to do this? Why is the environment so bad? Why is the politics so bad? Instead of that, think about, what can I do today to fix the problems, right? For yourself. That's where investing in yourself comes into play, and that's where you can do a lot of wonders. So before we wrap up, I want you to let me know, what is the biggest challenge you are facing right now with working remotely. if you're working remotely. And most often than not, today's day and age, you more likely are, right? Drop your questions in the chat and I'll look at those questions. Like I said, unfortunately today I'm not able to look at the live chat. I seem to have some problem with my streaming. But other than that, if you have any question, drop it in the comments. I will probably use that to cover those topics in my next video, or maybe I'll make it into an entire video for the next time. But in the moment, just drop in the comments what you have as a problem that you would like me to address, right? All right, so that's our time for tonight. Your homework for this week is simple, right? Draft the 3 bullet Friday wrap up email that I was talking about. Send it to your manager. Friday is coming up in another 3 days, and take control of your visibility. Thanks to all of you who are joining me live. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on my YouTube channel. Follow me on LinkedIn, and I will see you in the next video. But before we leave, I see, this is the thing. I seem to miss out on moving my slide forward. But before we leave, I just wanted to bring up one other thing. Yeah. Now, if you think about your overall career strategy, and if you're wondering how you can bring improvements in yourself, right? I'm also going through ACC level coaching certification. I haven't gotten certified yet. I have undergone the training. I have to do 100 hours of coaching. And it's expected that I do most of it pro bono. So I'm offering free one-on-one coaching sessions. It needn't necessarily be very specific to your career. It could be anything that you would like to talk about. If you think that you need to improve your communication, or you simply want a sounding board to just bounce off ideas, that'll be a judgment-free space. I will adhere to ICF code of ethics. 100% everything that we speak is going to be 100% um, confidential. It's going to be a judgment free space for you to just explore your thoughts out loud, right? And I'll support you and I'll walk with you throughout that conversation to help you with whatever that you are enduring to conquer, right? So that's an offer. That's, again, I've dropped a link for you to book a one-on-one session with me. The first session is free, obviously, but then if you want to continue on that journey and explore more of that side, the coaching, and I'm not talking about coaching where I'm giving you advice. If you go through ICF's, International Coaching Federation, ICF's code of ethics, I cannot give you suggestions. I'm not going to give you ideas, or I'm not going to give you inputs as to how you can deal with it. It's just going to be pure coaching where I will help you bring the best out of yourself and action that you can actually implement, right? And it has been powerful for those who have been part of it and who've been through it, but it's going to be very difficult for me to explain what it does for you overall without you actually going through it. So again, I'm offering free coaching. If you are even looking at it from an entrepreneur who wants to go through a coaching session, and or you want it to be done for your whole organization, feel free to let me know. We can work that out. But yeah, and the link is down in the description. Feel free to reach out and book some time with me. And yeah, so that's about for today. Thank you for all of you who are part of the stream and listening and watching me live. um, Ever so grateful. And like I said, as always, put in the comments if you would like me to cover any specific topic, or if you think there is a specific problem that you're facing that you would like me to talk about in the future videos. I'm happy to do that. Just put it on the comment section and I'll address them. So until the next live session next week, Tuesday, most likely 7 or 7:30 p.m. India Standard Time, I'll be there with a new topic. Until then, take care. Bye.